In a space too far from anything to be nothing, a blue light shines into the void. Through the shadows, shapes appear. People, stories, wonders, and mysteries. Live from Elgin, Illinois at the Blue Box Cafe, it's Tales by the Blue Light with your host, me, James Wilder. This month, like every month, we're going to be calling in stories through this blue light. These stories come in all forms: wondrous, science fiction tales, fantasy adventures, and horrors to make you shudder. So join us as we discover new places, new people, and take new journeys together by listening to this blue light, like you might by the fireside. All the stories you'll be hearing today are brand new, and they were written by yours truly, so if you like what you're hearing, put something in the tip jar, or go find me on Patreon. But before we get to the stories, as always, I have been trying to practice a trick for all of you. This one I think I might just get right, which would be for the first time in the history of the show. I want all of you to get out your phones or get on your laptops. Are you there? Are you physically standing on your laptop? Because that's not what I meant. Please do not do that. Okay, have them out. Go on your social media site of your choice and post one thing that makes you happy in this world. One thing that gives you hope. Share something with the world that you love, that makes you smile, that when you think about, helps you get through your day. Did you do it? Do it. Ha! I just tricked you into sharing joy with the world and making someone else who sees your post happy and filled with hope. Ha! Suck it! Finally! I pulled off a trick! You might be asking what makes me happy. And let me tell you, it's getting to share all these stories with you. It's the highlight of my month. So let's put the world we live in aside for a second and delve into stories. It's okay. The world will still be there when you get back. For now, we have a blue light, mystical and fantastic. And we're calling something in... Oh! We have a special guest this week. It looks like our guest is... I can't actually tell, huh? Maybe something's wrong with the light. Rob, could you get over here? Oh, there you are. Rob Southgate is one of our producers on the show, and he's going to take over hosting while I try to get our magic light to work. I'll be right back.
I guess I should stall then? Hey, what's a fun fact? Do you know that in Russia, in the year... the light is getting brighter. Someone is coming through.
You're not James Wilder. I'd recognize his ugly mug anywhere.
I'm not, no. Are you this week's guest?
I am. My name's Magpie Jones. I'm a monster hunter.
Wait, you mean like... You have a segment on this show, Monster Hunter Monthly, broadcast from an abandoned missile silo.
In the middle of nowhere, Utah. Yes, I know. That's my little brother running his little radio show while I actually go out and hunt monsters across the United States.
Oh, it is an honor to have you on the show. Do you know any other monster hunters? Sam and Dean Winchester, Buffy, Lassie?
I've met them, yeah. They're mostly what you'd expect. Well, Buffy's taller than you think, and Lassie actually has an Irish accent most of the time.
The dog?
I stutter.
So what brings you to Elgin, Mr. Jones?
I'm hunting a monster, a changeling. It's eluded monster hunters worldwide for years now.
How?
It's a changeling. It's sort of in the name.
And you think it might be here now?
It might. I can't rule it out. There are two easy ways to tell. You can throw the would-be changeling into a fire.
Yeah, what happens if they aren't a changeling?
What happens is it's unfortunate. The other way is to cook with eggshells. The changeling will get confused and be mesmerized. So, here's my card. Let me know if you see one. Here, have an eggshell sandwich. That'll find him. I'll tell my brother to get out of that missile silo once in a while. He needs sunlight.
Thank you. I'll let you know. He's gone.
Hey, Rob, what'd I miss?
I just interviewed the guest. He's gone.
Oh, darn. Oh, would you look at that sandwich? That beautiful eggshell sandwich.
Okay, I'm going to get rid of this sandwich. And Jim's going to bring you his first story of the month.
I am?
It's a brilliant serial sci-fi story, continuing from last month's tale about a conflict between two sets of time travelers.
Wow, that sounds great. I wish I'd written that.
You did? Okay, here's the story. Bye, everyone. Sandwich destruction time.
Yes! So, yeah, story time. Our fourth story time is a little sci-fi piece we're calling The Miracle at Axum. Previously on 10,000 Dawns. Time travelers Grail and Size, the cyborg Archimedes von Honorabe met their alternate reality counterparts in the 1970s and prevented them from changing history. Those two alternate reality agents, Blanche Combine and Apollo von Honorabe, escaped, however, but not before revealing that Blanche had made terrible decisions. Graylin didn't, at the prodding of the leader of a mysterious group of other time travelers called Dusk. Now, we enter into a new story, so take yourself back in time to 600 AD. Toklia ran down the street, reaching the door and banging on it. Jafar! Jafar, open up! The door opened, and Jafar ibn Abi Talib's wife, Asama bin Omis, opened the door, rubbing an eye. Toklia, it's the middle of the night. The Meccans. The Quraysh. Asma, you told me to watch for the Meccans, and they're here, in the city. I spotted them, going through the city gates on camels. Her eyes went wide as Jafar got to the doorway, and she told him what Toklia had just told her. You need to flee, Toklia said. No, the prophet, peace be upon him, said he'd be safe in Axum. The king's already granted us asylum. We'll appeal to him. Jafar ibn Abi Talib, with all due respect, I saw the Meccans' camels. They're loaded down with bribes. Fine leather for the king. They're going to bribe him. You and your fellow Muslims have been kind to me since you fled here, and I'm begging you to save yourselves. Asma gave a sad smile. My husband is right, Toklia. We have to stay. We must have faith in God. Toklia shook her head and ran from the door. Her friends would be dead or gone soon, and she couldn't bear to see it happen. All the while, from the rooftop, a pair of figures watched. No one below saw them, even as Blanche Combine's white hair blew in the wind like a flag. The boss wants us to make sure King Arma rejects the companions' asylum when they go before the king, or barring that, we just kill them all. Apollonius looked as uncomfortable as a towering cyborg with skin made of video screens could look. This is going to make history an absolute mess. Not to mention... Blanche looked back at him accusingly. Not to mention what, Apollo? Not to mention it seems excessive to kill them. Blanche got up and poked him in the chest. Did what Graylin said actually get to you? Everything is awful. You know it just as well as I do. These people will die now, or tomorrow, or a few years, or a few decades. The sun will go out. Then all the suns will go out. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, why do we care? She gestured out at the vast city of Axum. This is the center of one of the greatest trading empires in Earth's history, but it's weak and it goes away. It gets overrun, just like everything. Blanche, we could just stop. Just stop all this and go somewhere else. She scoffed. Where would we go, Apollo? You think our boss wouldn't hunt us down? If it doesn't matter, we'll just enjoy the time we have, anywhere we want. Blanche ran an armored hand through her hair. We have a mission here. We need to mess up history and get out. We can talk about your thoughts after that, okay? Apollo hung his head a bit and nodded. Yeah, I guess. Great. Then let's get started. Toklia stood nervously by the tall Stella. She hadn't been waiting very long, but she was still scared. The Stella had been built back when the city was pagan and burial sites for their kings. They still stood, even though it was a city of Christians now. She felt strange standing by the pagan monument over a dead body when the person she was waiting for did arrive, sliding from behind a Stella in a hooded cloak. She jolted. You scared me. Sorry, they said. Did you do as I asked? Toklia wanted to lie, but looking at the hooded figure, she was overwhelmed with a feeling that would be a worse affront than just admitting it. Like the figure could tell her truth from her lies with an extra sense. Though she supposed that wouldn't be too hard. She was scared and not exactly doing a fantastic job of hiding all of her emotions. I tried to warn the companions that they needed to flee when the Quraysh arrived. The figure didn't react. I know. You do that. And I suspect they didn't leave. Toklia nodded. Good. Then everything's according to plan. Make sure you've gathered the people I told you to. An arm crept out of the cloak and dropped a bag of money on the ground. "For your troubles." "Thank you, I don't deserve such kindness." The figure simply turned around and walked behind the stela again. When Toclia circled as they were gone, picking up the bag of money, she checked the coins, pulling one out to read its inscription: "Peace and mercy. Axum, a city of virtue indeed." Step 1 for Blanche and Apollo was trying to frame the companions. Blanche held a knife, a replica of one the refugees had brought with them from their old home in Medina. She took a deep breath and pressed the flat of the blade against her armored chest. She just had to do this. She tried to reassure herself that it wouldn't matter, that that's what, she was about to do, and it wasn't necessary. But after what Apollo said, she was having doubts herself. Why would he say that? Why would he think that? They were supposed to be in this together. Their boss hadn't been happy when they botched the job with Nixon, but everyone deserved second chances. They couldn't screw this up. She'd come too far, done too much to back out now. The universe had given her hell. Abusive parents, adults tried to use her for their own goals, pain, loneliness, and she had a purpose now. And she could finally make the universe feel as lonely and empty as she did. So she had a knife, and she just had to wait for the perfect moment. She watched from her place in the alley. There it was, a city guard going on his patrol, and Jafar out carrying something back to the home he was staying in. They were in the same place, and she had a knife just like his. The guard had his back to her. She clenched the knife and began to spring out when a voice yelled, "Guard, look!" a young woman yelled. The guard turned, and Blanche blanched. She did a heel turn and scrambled down the alley as the guard chased her until she rounded the corner and grav-booted her way up on top of a roof. The guards rounded the corner, confused, but alive. If she killed them now, there were witnesses. How had she been so careless? She blamed herself. But the mission wasn't done yet. They still had a second chance at this. Blanche and Apollo snuck onto King Arma's palace the old-fashioned way, by using anti-gravity jet proofs to get on the roof. The palace was huge, fountains with cat-head spouts mounted all over the place, and fine tiles with patterns inlaid with carefully cut pieces of stone. They slipped in and found their way onto a viewing platform atop the king's throne room. Carefully, she and Apollo took their places. It was nearly showtime. Blanche watched as the Quraysh came up to the king and began to display their goods. They'd really brought a king's ransom. They were serious about getting the companions back to Mecca, and they seemed confident they'd get them. After all, Axum was one of their biggest trading partners. The king looked at their goods and heard their message, then called in the companions. Blanche readied the bomb she had prepared and waited for Apollo's signal. "Companions, I have heard what the Quraysh have said. Now what do you have to say?" The leader of the companions pulled their hood down as they spun in a circle, striking a disco pose with a finger in the air. "Gotcha!" Blanche was stunned as she looked down at the face of her alternate reality twin, Graylin Sighs, and felt the stone beneath her slide out, dropping her for her perch and sliding her down onto the floor, the bomb rolling out of her hand. Graylin held her arms wide. "Welcome to Axum! The king was kind enough to help me set all this up after I told him there were assassins coming." Graylin picked up the bomb and stuffed it into her bag at her side. Blanche stared. "But the Quraysh, you stopped history from happening anyways. This is different. You're changing things." Graylin laughed, then raised her hand and let her list go limp. "Oh, please. These fine folks are a traveling acting company. Say hi, Yared." Yared, who was apparently the head Quraysh, waved. "The actual meeting isn't for a few hours, so we're fine. And you're mine now." Blanche tried to scramble up, but a trapdoor opened up under her feet and she fell into a small pit. Looking up, she could see Apollo was now in a net suspended from the ceiling. "See, while I'm here, Archimedes is back in time, having dinner with the architect and bribing them." "So, really, you can't escape." Blanche tried to use her grab boost to rocket out of the hole, but mechanical arms shot out of the stone walls and grabbed her ankles and wrists. Graylin looked around the room. No one looked down there. There's, Graylin watched the futuristic arms bind Blanche anachronistically. A demon or something down there. Yeah, just don't look. "You can't just go back in time and bribe the architect of a building to do what you want with it," Blanche yelled. "Arch is literally proving you wrong right now. Sorry." A century earlier, Archimedes von Honorabe was opening another jar of wine with Gideon, pulling the stylized stone head with a flat brim of hair coming out around the nape of the neck in the traditional Axum fashion. Another cup of red? Gideon, his cheeks rosy, laughed. Okay, my friend, one more. The architect went back to the chest of gold and jewels Arch had brought him. And Axum were rich in these things, but I've never seen such craftsmanship in this uniform style. Where did you get these? Arch sighed. Honestly, Walmart, I've never heard of this Walmart before, but it must truly be a place of wonder. Arch bobbed his head from side to side. Not really, but they had a sale. Regardless, do you think... Oh, Arch looked down at his tablet computer. Right, another change to your plans for the palace, if you don't mind. Of course, my friend, whatever you desire. Right, so I know this won't mean anything to you, but we need space in that hole for robot arms. It took some work, but Graylin pulled Blanche out of the hole and dragged her up to the viewing platform along with Apollo, who was being escorted in by Toclia and the actors. So I'm your prisoner. What are you going to do? Graylin smiled. I'm going to let the two of you watch a miracle. In time, Arch arrived, complaining about how an architect wouldn't hold his wine. They sat with their prisoners, passing a bag of popcorn back and forth between each other. How much longer are we going to have to... Shh, Arch said. It's about to start. The Quraysh arrived, just as they had earlier. In fact, the actors had done a darn near perfect job of imitating them. Blanche was, despite herself, begrudgingly impressed. Then the king called the companions in. Jafar led them. These men come from Mecca and say many things about you. So I've brought you here to hear what you have to say in response to them. So tell me, you've thrown away the faith of your people and not taken up another one of theirs or mine. We here in Axum are people of faith, Christians. So tell me, what is your religion? Jafar came forward. We were an uncivilized people. God sent us an apostle who commanded us to speak the truth, be faithful to our engagements, mindful of the ties of kinship and kindly hospitality, and to refrain from crimes and bloodshed. He forbade us to commit abominations and to speak lies, and to devour the property of orphans, to vilify chaste women. He commanded us to worship God alone and not to associate anything with him, and he gave us orders about prayer, alms, and fasting. So we believed in him and what he brought us from Allah, and we followed what he asked us to do, and we avoided what he forbade us to do. The king stroked his beard. You say you believe in one God, like us. Tell me, if you've been given something by God, can you show me it? Graylin looked over at them, grinning, and started poking Arch in the shoulder. Here's the good part. Jafar nodded. I can, O king. And he began to recite a story from the Quran, a story about Mary and her son Jesus. He nearly sang the words, letting them flow out, covering every finely worked tile in the room. The king leaned in and listened to the story. It was beautiful, and soon tears filled his eyes. Then tears filled the eyes of his aides. The note-takers scribbling away found their papyrus damp with their tears, and the king found his beard soaked with his own. When Jafar finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The king rose, eyes shining. Truly, this and the gospel of Christ have come from the same source of light. He looked at the Quraysh. I will never forsake these Muslims, and they're safe in my city and my country, and they'll have asylum here among us Christians as fellow people as long as they wish to stay here. You can keep your... The king scowled down at the many leather goods. Bribes. There was a joyous noise from around the room, aside from the stunned Quraysh, and Graylin applauded. Look at that, Blanche. Two groups of people, one in need of help, the other able to offer it, turning down a fortune to protect people who need help. That's why this moment matters. History might not always be kind. It's usually not. But sometimes it is. Sometimes people come together and are just good. Gloriously good. Good to each other. Isn't it beautiful? Blanche looked away. You can quit moralizing at me. I'll quit moralizing when you start having morals, Graylin snapped back. You think you've hurt? I lived through all the pain you did, and I made different choices. I wanted to hurt people. I did. But I chose to be kind. That's all, Blanche. I don't care about your endless sea of black that we can't escape from, because I looked at that same sea of darkness, and I'm here. She scoffed. What's your point? Are you going to keep rubbing this in my face? Arch laughed. Can I take this part? Graylin gestured to give him the floor. You're wrong, Blanche. Graylin and I, we're a team. You never stood a chance. You had the drop on us with the whole Nixon concert thing, which, let me tell you, that was pretty darn well set up, but he gestured around. Did you really think this was going to go on for a while? You made mistakes, both of you. You were selfish and violent. That's the thing, Graylin cut in. We were always better than you. Did you think we'd be chasing you around adventure after adventure, month after month? Blanche, you're a failure. Arch tried to cut Graylin off, but she ignored him. I mean that, and not in a mean way. You just couldn't stretch out your imagination big enough to see anything beyond your own hands. Oh, okay, now that Graylin was a bit mean, let's get back on track before we lose the moral high ground, Arch added. Yeah, sorry. Sorta, Graylin said. Graylin and Arch stood before their counterparts. Come on then, we're taking you somewhere else. And we're going to show you how wrong you are. Arch snapped, and a portal opened beneath Blanche and Apollo. They fell, and when they hit the ground, she saw a burning sky. Oh no, Apollo said, looking at the burning ruins of Moscow. Why would you take us here? Back here? Blanche looked up and saw herself in the distance with Apollo and the leader of Dusk. You can't really be thinking. Graylin stepped over her to lean down. Get ready, Blanche, because the professionals are about to show you how changing history is really done. To be continued. This episode of Tales by the Blue Light was brought to you by the secret Olympic sport of terror fishing. You may not have heard of terror fishing, and that's exactly what they want you to have heard. Whatever you do at the Winter Olympics, never go inside the tent you find on the outskirts, the one that seems to look official, but seems to be too far from the stadiums and rinks and courses. Whatever you do not go into the tent. Do not talk to the smiling man who never stops smiling with all his teeth, even when he talks, who asks you if you want to compete. But I'm not an Olympian, you'll say, to which, despite his smile being wide, it becomes wider. You can be. All you have to do is look in that hole in the ice. He says ice, but you could have sworn it was solid ground outside the tent. But no, it is ice under your feet, and whatever you do not look in that hole, a hole that never should have been made and never should have been seen. Its very absence of matter a heresy against the skin of the earth. But if you're lucky, you could win gold for your country and unseat the 50-time reigning champions, West Germany, who seem to have no understanding of time and swear they've only been in the tent a few minutes. Terror fishing. Maybe you should just take up curling instead. And, now it appears we have another story coming out of Blue Light. This one is a little fantasy piece we're calling ZX, an eyeful of Quest. Who's the green girl? She's the one with the wizard. I can tell he's a wizard. The hat gives away. And the robes that look like they're literally the night sky. They're bluer than the night sky. Okay, so they don't literally look like the night sky, but they're pretty darn close approximation of them. I mean, sort of. Don't give me that, Varric sighed. Look, the wizard is with a green girl. You know, he also cut his eyes out, had that little cloth wrapped around them. That also kind of tips off the wizard thing. Dagon, shut up. Why is a wizard with a green girl? Dagon looked back. The green girl was drinking a juice box while leaning back in a bale of hay next to her wizard friend in the back of the cart. Well, she's an Ilias, one of those, desert folk. Varric clattered big. Shows she's an orc. The passengers in the back of the cart looked up front at them, and Dagon rapidly moved his hand back and forth in front of the staff. Stop. You can't call her, and he lowered his volume to a whisper, an orc. She's an orc. That's what she is. No, she's not. That's really offensive. When you think of orc, what do you think of? Mindless hordes of creatures being slaughtered during the Great Reckoning? Mindless slaves of the gods far inferior to the elves? Oh, my dead gods, Dagon said, eyes widening. I never knew you were so racist. Varric straightened his spine. I'm not racist. I'm just saying they were a big mindless horde during the Great Reckoning. That's a fact. That's a stereotype, Varric. Ilias aren't swarming monsters. They have a rich culture. They make beautiful music. They built a really big city, walls taller than all the cities in Corona. Varric wiggled his hand. I don't really believe that they built that. I mean, hi, a voice called from the back of the cart. I can hear you, the green girl said. Varric said. We're going to walk the rest of the way, thanks, she said. Well, we don't do partial payments for travel. Great, the wizard said, because we're not paying. Dagon put his face in his hands. Varrock tightened his face up. You can't just leave our transaction. You're actually really darn nice. It's actually so I'm out, she said, gathering her things. The wizard followed suit. And I'm a wizard, so... The cart stopped and Varrock stood up. You're going to pay us now. The wizard rose, like a wave rearing up from the ocean. He didn't look at Varrock because he didn't have eyes, but Varrock got the sense he was being surveyed from every pore. Boo, the wizard said, and Varrock was floating through black and starlight, the void around him suddenly blotted out by a massive hand, larger than anything he'd seen before. He gasped for breaths that wouldn't come as the fingers closed around him, and he found himself on the ground next to the cart, heaving into the dirt. By the dead gods, Varrock, you don't mess with a wizard. They literally have magic. The wizard and his green-skinned friend made their way through the woods away from the cart. I'm sorry you said all that stuff, Charia. She shrugged. It's okay, Malflick. I'm used to people saying that stuff. He frowned, but didn't push it further. They had somewhere to be, after all. The forest was thick, and both of them were wearing long garments. Charia's a long robe-like dress. Malflick's robes were technically a cassock, but no one really paid too much attention to the semantics there. He had wizard robes, because wizards have robes, even if the tailors who people said that to always got in a huff about it. Do you know how much farther we have? Charia asked. Malflick stood and took in the world. Probably a few hundred meters still. She sighed and squatted down on a tree stump for a moment. Do we really have to stop here? It's so far out of our way. He nodded. You want to learn magic, right? Well, we've got to get something to show the people at Eagle's Tower, the magic school. Make a good impression. I thought they just, wanted the best magicians in creation to come join them. Malflick's mouth fumbled around, trying to find some words. Yeah, I wish it was that simple. She looked down at her hands. It's that I'm an orc, isn't it? We're almost there. Let's just keep going. She nodded and got up, dusting herself off and making sure she still had her flute case tightly secured to her back. The destination was a little farther than Malflick guessed, but not by much. It was a shrine on the side of a mountain, jutting out on a plaza built from blocks of stone built from the mountain itself. A tall staircase led up to the shrine where a single figure stood blocking the path. Who's that? Charia asked. The guardian. These places always have a guardian. Charia crossed her arms. Wait, where does he live? Probably inside the shrine, I guess. All alone? Well, yes, I'd assume so. That seems kind of cruel. Malflick rolled his head back and sighed. Look, I don't build these shrines. They're just here. They were a thing. Who bankrolls the guardian? He's devoted to his shrine. Maybe. Malflick threw his arms up. Look, this really was an avenue of questioning I came here prepared for. This is a quest. Quests have shrines with guardians. We have to defeat the guardian somehow. That's how these things work. That's kind of silly. What if the guardian got tired and wanted a different life? Wanted to, go be a stand-up comedian or something. Actually, what happens when they die? Malflick bit his lower lip. Okay, that I do know. The shrine guardians don't die. They're bound to the shrines for eternity. Unless you carve their liquid souls from the stone, they're stuck here. They come back if you kill them, not immediately, but in time. Charia watched it with her eyes wide open. You're serious. Magic is a harsh world, especially old magic. You have to give something up to get something. Like your eyes, she said. Like my eyes. I never asked, what do you see? He laughed. I don't see anything. I just know things are there with magic. I know what the pages of books say if they're open. Not because I see them, because I could read them if they were there. I just know it's pretty boring. Isn't that like a lot of things? Yeah, he replied. She nodded. Okay, so how do we take on this guardian? Malflick smiled broadly. We fake it till you make it. The guardian did not remember when it became the guardian. It had been there as long as it remembered for the most part. Occasionally, bits of its past would drip in through the roof of its skull, flashes of fields of wheat in a darkening sky. Occasionally, a smile, sometimes the briefest touch of a hand. But these flashes became fewer and fewer by the decade. It had once had a gender, at least it thought it did. Maybe that was making that up. It once felt like a person, a being with choice and nuance. But now it was simply part of the landscape. It had once had hands beyond the great metal gauntlets that it grasped its greatsword with. But over time, those hands had lost their purpose. All it needed was to grasp the sword. And that there was a difference between the hands and the gauntlets ceased to matter. Which isn't to say the hands rotted away. They simply ceased to be. Because every shrine has a guardian. And every guardian lived as a guardian did. Everything else was extraneous. For all time it waited till someone came to challenge it. Some, it cleaved in twain, and it didn't bother to clean up their bodies, aside from making sure there was a clean path to the shrine. Over time, the bodies gave the shrine a proper decor, and while it didn't exactly have feelings, it felt something almost edging on contentment, that its shrine looked like a shrine you would visit in an adventure. Some came to the shrine and defeated the guardian. To them, it felt no animosity. After all, people are supposed to win sometimes. Otherwise, why have a shrine to quest to at all? It was on a sunny day, like any other, that the guardian of the shrine saw two people approaching it. One was a wizard. It had encountered them before, and more than one lay as a pile of bones around the shrine. The other it hadn't seen the kind of before. Or had it? It saw flashes of long ago, a great reckoning of the world, fleeing people with green skin, running past it when it still had skin, fleeing a darkening sky. It pushed the memory away and lifted its sword to point at its challengers. I am the guardian of the shrine. Leave now or meet your fate. It called in a booming metallic voice. I'm fine with that. Are you fine with that, Sharia? The wizard asked. She replied, won't that thing kill us? It wouldn't be the worst thing that happened to me, the wizard said as he walked towards it. It brandished its sword at him. Prepare for combat, it cried, its words booming across the shrine. Yeah, no, actually, I don't believe you exist. The guardian lowered its sword at him. What? There's nothing in front of me. Long ago, there was someone here, but what was their name? It didn't understand this trick. I am the guardian of the shrine. I've been here for all time. The wizard gave a sad smile. I know that's a lie, and you would if you were real. You're not here. In a moment, I'm going to walk past you, past this thing, I doubt. The wizard was still outside of its reach, so it took a great swing of its sword and cut a decorative stone pillar in half. Do you doubt the reality of my steel? Yes, he said, and began to walk up the steps. When did you come here? Were you a child? It took a step back. Who took you here? Your mother? Your father? It shook its helmet and stood in for a head. No, it wasn't either of those. It was your aunt, the wizard said, and it had been his aunt. Fiero, you have to run with me! He was trying, but he kept looking up at the sky, the darkening sky that was filled with empty promises, a great reckoning. They were heading towards the shrine. He stood out through the forest. He held onto his aunt's hand. Had the green people he'd seen earlier made it? When they reached the shrine, the guardian raised his sword, but his aunt yelled, I have a new guardian! The guardian that had been there looked at the darkening sky and down at the child. So be it. And let out a sigh of relief, its duty done. Its eternal stand finally passed on. Fiero, she said, kneeling down and grabbing his shoulders. I couldn't think of anything else to do. Everything is going... But then she was gone. Gone in a deep darkness, like a hand had grabbed her from a sea of stars. And he was guarding the shrine. And then he knew who he was. And then he was no longer the guardian. And then he vanished in a blink. Sharia rubbed her eyes. He just vanished. Malfolk turned, waving his hands dramatically and posing. Magic! It sounded like you just tricked it or something. He shrugged. Magic. Together, they walked up the stairs into the towering shrine. So, what exactly are we looking for in here? Sharia asked. It's a shrine. Whatever we're looking for is probably going to be on a big pedestal or held by a skeleton on a throne to whisper dark truths to us or, whatever. Sharia grabbed him by the sleeve. Can you stop being so pessimistic about all this, so jaded. We're exploring an ancient shrine. We made the trek here over miles of wilderness, but everything just seems passé to you. Old hat. It is old hat, you replied. I've done all this before. Gone to these places, done this sort of thing. You think it's an adventure, don't you? She frowned and clenched her hand stronger on his sleeve. Yes, because it is. That's why I came with you, to learn magic, to go on adventures. He turned away and turned back with a smile. Of course, and I'll make sure all of that goes just as it should. She knew it was fake, so she didn't let go of his sleeve as he kept walking. There indeed was a pedestal at the end of the temple, and on it was a human eye pulled from the socket, cut going across its center. It somehow looked older than it should. It wasn't rotten. That's gross. Malfoy shrugged and walked up to the pedestal, pulling out a leather bag and stuck the eye into it. There we go. Quest all done. That should get the attention of the Wizards Council. You get into wizard school, no question. Sharia looked disgusted. Okay, I thought wizard school was the thing you wanted that would make you happy. Should I put this back? It's an eye from a person, she said with a grimace. Oh, yeah, he held the bag up. It's from one of the first wizards from, before the Great Reckoning. I took the other one ages ago to get into wizard school, so I figured I could grab this one for you easy. Charia's face turned from disgust to some sort of betrayal. What, you've been here before? Of course, I used the same trick to get rid of the Guardian then. Though, well, it took me longer back in the day. I had to figure it out. It'll be back at sundown, so we should get moving unless you want me to have to do that whole spiel again. Charia shook her head. You don't tell me things, Malfoy. You brought me here to get a relic, and we got the relic. But I don't know, I just thought there would be more to it, some secret. I wanted this to be mysterious, an adventure. We would get by on a scrape of our teeth. He pursed his lips and looked at her for a moment. No, you don't. You really don't. You think you know what adventure is, what heroism is, but actual quests are bloody. There's death, injury, darkness. It's best to keep it simple, as to stay safe, walk the path we know. Charia shook her head. You don't know what I want, he shrugged. Come on then. Let's hit the road. There's always time for another magic lesson on the way. Thank you. This episode of Tales by the Blue Light was brought to you by the Orange Light. Now, I know you've been enjoying this blue light, but why not try an orange one? The Orange Light is the latest in storytelling possibilities brought to you by Nabisco. Nabisco makes many of your favorite snacks, plus eldritch interuniversal light that can bring stories far from the nether, and is cheaper too. Orange Light, now in licorice flavor. Okay then, we're getting a signal from an abandoned missile silo in the middle of nowhere, Utah. Yes, it's that time again. Time for another session of Monster Hunter Monthly. Hi, it's your long-suffering host, Magpie Jones, and by long-suffering, I really mean it this time. If you recall, last time I introduced you to my pet baby dragon, Wally. And by pet, I mean my brother Albatross left it here and figured I could take care of it. But do you have any idea how much a baby dragon eats? It's a lot. I'm buying frozen chicken by the crate. And also charcoal, because baby dragons need charcoal as part of a balanced diet. Isn't that right, Wally? Oh God, it's going to eat me soon, isn't it? Well, anyways, Wally is off playing on the intercontinental ballistic missile the U.S. government left here. I'm pretty sure it's not active. 47% sure. So he'll be fine out there playing and climbing around. Okay, so while Wally's distracted, let's get our news out of the way. Let's see, we have a report from hunters in Toronto, Canada, that caught a Wendigo. Well, that's exciting. Good job to our pals up north. In worse news, the werewolves are still being jerks, and I have to report they defeated another group of hunters, this time in Tennessee. Oh boy, that's terrible, isn't it? Oh. Well, on a lighter note, it looks like our hunter friends in Dearborn, Michigan got a brand new soft serve ice cream maker for their base. That's some important news right there. Ooh, okay, Wally is flying around now. So it looks like it's time for reader mail. I don't know, just one letter this month? Well, you guys need to send me more unless you're getting eaten by werewolves, in which case, I mean, come on, guys. Okay. Dear Magpie, that's me. What is the most notable encounter you've ever had with a monster? Oh, this is from Rebecca in Indianapolis. Well, that certainly sounds like someone I absolutely don't know. Well, the most notable encounter, I'd have to take you back to when me and my brother Albatross were teenagers. We were in New Mexico, hunting a monster, combing through caves and driving through the desert. Albie had parked the car below a cliff face and we're each taking different caves. That was when I found it. The changeling. It looked like a girl about my own age with black hair down below her shoulders, a yellow dress. As I moved closer, she mimicked my movements. And then turned into me in front of my eyes. Albie had given me a gun, and I slowly lifted it to face the creature before it covered its face and turned back into the girl. Are you going to kill me? It asked. I didn't know what to say. No monster had ever asked me that before. I mean, after, Albatross and my dad left, Albie and I drove around doing the work he taught us, usually with, one of our other siblings. This time it was just us, though, and for a moment it was just me. Albie didn't hesitate. He knew his job, and I was alone for the first time. And the changeling looked at me, eyes welling up with tears, and I lowered my gun and pointed to the exit of the cave. "Thank you," they whispered, and ran preternaturally fast. I tried to hide that from Albie, but he knew. He never really forgave me for letting it go, but we kept working together for a few more years till, the broadcaster could kick the bucket, and I left to do something I liked more than monster hunting, broadcasting to all your beautiful faces out there. Sure, I might be eaten by a dragon soon, but remember, you're beautiful, and if a changeling steals your face, it'll be beautiful too. So, that's it here from Utah. So, next time, hunters, don't die. This episode of Tales by the Blue Light was brought to you by your zodiac sign. Hey, this is your zodiac sign. I just wanted to let you know that this week, we of the stars have decided to take this week off. It's nothing against you, but trying to predict your life every week is really hard, especially when it has to be the same as every single other person born around the same time of the year as you. So, whoever you are, your horoscope for today is buy a big soft pretzel. It doesn't matter where or if you give it to someone else, just do it. Yep, that's all of your horoscopes, so just deal with it. Thanks, see you next week, and we'll be ready with something generic that totally sounds like it's about you. The Zodiac. We like pretzels. And for our final story of the night, we're going to have our horror story of the evening. A little piece coming in through the blue light here I call Forgotten. Brianna Coolgrave wasn't noticed by anyone at school until one day she wasn't noticed at all. The reality of it came so suddenly, she wasn't even sure if anything had changed. After all, teachers regularly forgot to mark her present in class, so, the face that happened every period that day didn't faze her. She just made sure she had to have proof that she was there, and she'd leave it at the student reception desk before the end of the day, like she'd done dozens of times before. The student reception desk might have just been the only place she was recognized, because Mrs. Haverford had to go through and count her present in class, or several, or all, at least once a week. "You should let your teachers know you're there. Make a fuss," she advised her each time, and Brianna would not meet her gaze, one arm straight down at her side, the other holding onto her elbow. Mrs. Haverford would sigh, and then mark all of her classes without bothering to call her parents. It happened too often to keep bothering them about it. "You're such a slight, shy girl," she left off playing, but Brianna knew she was thinking it. "But you can't go through your whole life being anonymous." Brianna would nod again before heading out for the day. This day was different, though. No one marked her present, which again wasn't unprecedented. No one passed her quizzes or books in class. Again, common. But little odder things happened along the way. People ran into her in the hallway, and when they did, they looked confused, like they just ran into a particularly hard patch of air. She just apologized and kept going. She bumped into another person and trampled over them. She bumped into another person and her books and papers fell all across the floor. No one stopped to help her pick them up. They just trampled over them, continuing on their way to class. "Could someone help?" she said softly. No one did, and she fought through feet, shoes stepping down on her hands till she had everything bundled together. Wiping away her tears, she scampered up and ran to class, hoping she'd make it on time, but the door shut in her face. She knocked on it, lightly, and stood in front of the door. No one opened it. She banged louder. Nothing. Signed, she went back to student reception. Not being even let into class was a first for her. Brianna stood in front of Mrs. Haverford and waited for her to notice her. When a few minutes had passed, she coughed. No reaction. "Excuse me, Mrs. Haverford?" she said. Nothing. "Mrs. Haverford?" she repeated after a time. Still nothing. Brianna sighed and sat down in one of the waiting chairs as Haverford helped another student who had just walked in. She didn't think Mrs. Haverford liked her, but she had acknowledged her existence, which was more than most people. This slight felt crueler than most. What had she done? Had she simply gotten tired of her? Summoning up all her courage, she stepped up to the desk and addressing her again. When there was no response, Brianna leaned forward and waved a hand in front of her face. Still nothing. Can you even hear me?" she said. "Can anyone even hear me?" she yelled. No one responded. Brianna slumped down on the floor and pulled out her phone. She was too scared to use it during school hours, even when everyone around her was on theirs because it was against the rules. But if someone yelled at her, it would feel better than this. She texted her mom to come pick her up from school because she wasn't feeling well. The message was delivered. But as long as she waited, there wasn't a read notice on it. By this time, school was nearly over anyways. She decided to wait for her mom to text back instead of taking the bus. Force someone to acknowledge her. Her mother would worry and have to get her, and she'd cry and tell her about how terrible her no-good day was. But she never texted back. Brianna wandered the hallways over to the cafeteria where there was some sort of sports banquet going on. There was a coach or the athletic director or someone in a polo shirt standing in front of the athletes, giving one of the most generic speeches Brianna had ever heard. What was more interesting was that on the table of potluck food on paper plates was a boy. He was walking along the table, spitting in everyone's cup, one by one. Brianna stared at him. He looked back at her. They made eye contact. They held it. Abandoning his quest to spit in every single person's cup before he died, the boy got off the table and ran towards her, then stopped a little before her and, casually walked the rest of the distance, as though he didn't care she was there. He wore black skinny jeans and a black t-shirt with the logo of the Misfits band on it. She couldn't tell if he had done anything to his hair or he had spent an hour styling it to look like he hadn't done anything to his hair. "You can see me?" he stated. She nodded. He rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on then, what's your name?" Brianna, she whispered. What was that? Brianna, she said louder. "Cool, I'm Mike." She shook his hand. He looked like a Mike. "I was beginning to think I was the only one aside from Angel." And he circled his finger around his temple. "Angel?" she inquired. Yeah, I'll introduce you." He started walking and then she followed him along. "So, welcome to being forgotten. Why can't anyone see us?" "Hell if I know. But it's time to make the best of it, right? You see all those clowns in there?" Mr. Gross is blathering on and on about how some kid he really likes pushed some other kid from North Central past a bunch of lines during a game. Like, seriously, could they get any more boring? Now they're all drinking my spit. Serves it right, yeah? She didn't actually think so, but she nodded anyways. "Come on, I'll take you to see Angel." On stage, the drama department was rehearsing Romeo and Juliet. Brianna had always liked that play, always secretly wanted to play Juliet, though when anyone asked, she told them she wanted to play Rosaline, or if she was feeling particularly insignificant that day, nurse. Carolyn, who was playing Juliet, was in the middle of some monologue. She was definitely not trying to win any subtlety awards, but she wasn't terrible. "Oh, here comes my nurse, and she brings news, and every tongue that speaks, but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. The nurse entered the stage, who looked like she'd rather be watching Jacksepticeye videos at home. Now, nurse, what news? What hast thou there? The cords that Romeo bid thee fetch. There was a long pause, and Brianna heard an exasperated sigh from the rafters. I, the cords, the voice from the rafters called down. Janet, the line is I, the cords, the director called. Hey, here's the aux cable fam, Janet said. The cast laughed, and the director shushed them, and then began yelling about how not knowing your lines at this point was no laughing matter. They were close to the premiere date, and I had to cancel the show because it wasn't good enough. By God, he would do it. Someone crawled down from the rafters, laughing all the while. Oh man, he really thinks he convinced them they'll cancel the show. The guy didn't even cancel that production of Midsummer's Night's Dream, where he had to sell for them paraphrasing all their lines. Did you guys see that? She looked between them. No? Oh yeah, that was before you were here. It was Trent, my lord. Oh man. Oh, she laughed so hard she had to hold her belly, wiping a tear from her eye. Right. Yeah. So yeah. What's up, Mike? Angel. This is Brianna. She's also been forgotten. Angel held out a hand, and Brianna shook it. Angel was dressed in bell-bottoms and a striped shirt with a few buttons at the neck. She looked like she was from the 1970s. Nice to meet you. 4 of us in one school. 2 in so many years. This place really does suck. Mike grimaced when she said 4. Brianna looked up at her. There's someone else? Oh yeah, Tyson. He hangs out in the weight room most of the time. Him and Mike don't really get along. He's an asshole, Mike said. He's a jock, Angel clarified. Yes, Mike concluded. So, how did both of you get here? Brianna asked, cringing as they didn't immediately answer. We were both forgotten. That's how all of us get here. Mike acted up for attention until people got tired of it. And then he got no attention. I didn't act up, he growled. I was rebelling. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, he couldn't stay in anything. And nothing he did was big enough. He really got in trouble. I was smart about it, he muttered. One day he was just sitting in detention. He decided to try making noise to bother the guy watching him, but nothing worked. Then he cut in and just started yelling, stood up on Mr. Gross's deck and just screamed in his face, and nothing. Angel here, she wanted to be an actress. I am an actress. But she couldn't make it into any of the school shows. They put her in the ensembles, but then she'd gradually get filtered off the cast list just because she forgot that she was there. Eventually, everyone did too. You guys don't seem too shy, she said. We've been here a while. You'll get over it if you want to survive, Angel said. Survive? Brianna said, eyes widening. Yeah, see, you have to find a way for people to know you're there, but not obnoxiously, like a ghost. Otherwise, you fade away, Angel said. Think of it this way, Mike began. You're that weird feeling you get in a room when you're being watched. You overplay it. Start knocking everything in a room over. You're going to start going see-through, and then you're basically gone. You do nothing. You'll just pop out of existence. You need to find some way to stay relevant. Be memorable. But, she took a breath. I'm really not memorable. Then die, Mike said flatly. Brianna hung her head. Mike, Angel bit. She's still getting used to all this. I'm just being honest with her. He'll be gone forever, like Derek or Kelly or Philippa or Rosie or Daniel or other Mike or... You made your point, Angel said. So, how did you survive, Angel? Brianna asked. I'm the theater spook. Duh. Brianna had heard the theater kids talk about the theater ghost. She'd heard 4 different stories about how it was a student who had died in different grisly ways. Mike's the spirit of chaos. Tyrone's sort of the patron saint of the weight room, saving people at the last minute from accidents there. Yep, anyways, I was going to try and help Brianna find somewhere to haunt, so we'll see you guys later. Oh, come on, that isn't even close to the real line! Angel stormed off, and as Mike and Brianna left, pushed over a badly balanced clock as the director yelled again. What do you think I'll be good at as a ghost? Mike laughed. Good at? You're forgettable. I mean, really forgettable. What are your hobbies? I like Snapchat and Instagram. Those aren't hobbies. Does anyone even look at your, what do you call them on their stories? You're not from 2018, are you? I'm from 2006, resenting this place for over a decade now. And look, Brianna, Bree, can I call you Bree? No one had before, but she nodded. There's nothing interesting about you. You're going to have a hard time lasting here unless you do something big. And trust me, I've got something big. He led her to the football field. So a classic prank is to draw something obscene on the football field using stuff that kills the grass. I'm sure you've seen it in movies or whatever. She hadn't, but she nodded anyways. What we're going to do is put a message on there. Like, screw everyone, She looked out at the field. Something insulting? Yeah, to get back at the people who ignored us. You win? She nodded. Yeah, I'm in. He took her to the supply shed and let her loose. When the grass on the field had died, everyone had the same question. Who the heck is Brianna Colgrave? The words on the field, Brianna Colgrave is my crush, were making everyone wonder. And slowly, everyone remembered. It wasn't instantaneous. That as she walked through the hallways, people stopped bumping into her, and instead, she heard them whispering, "That's Brianna. The girl's so weirdo they face the football field off because they like." People asked her to sit with them at lunch and asked her who she thought it could be. She always played very coy, and eventually a few boys and girls claimed they had been the ones to do it, and then they had to talk to the principal. "You're sure you don't have any idea who did this, Brianna?" She shook her head. "I'm sorry, sir. Whoever it was, I don't think they were the kind of person to try to talk to people, I would know." The principal nodded. "I believe you. We'll have to keep our eyes open, though. Tell me if anyone spills the beans to you. Would you do that for me?" She nodded. She was here. "Okay, Brianna, you're going to take over the role of nurse. I'm afraid they had to kick Janet out of the play. Do you know your lines?" "Yes, sir." "Excellent. Then the theater director looked at his phone. Oh, come on. Caroline is sick. Her understudy doesn't even know her lines." "Sorry, Alice." Alice shrugged. You're not wrong, Mr. Pleasant." "Right. Does anyone know anyone here who could play Juliet?" Brianna bit her lip. "I might," she said. That night, she went out to the soccer field, the baseball diamond, and the football practice field with more bottles of poison and wrote, "Remember Angel, remember Mike, remember Tyrone." "Let's hope this works," she said. Thank you. All right, Rob, it's that time again.
Great.
All right, so we always end off the show with a little radio play, and tonight is no different. Have you be Dave, I'll be Mike.
Okay.
Okay. So we're ending things off this evening with a little piece we're calling Flamin' Hot. Hi, Dave. Good to see you.
I wish it was under nicer circumstances, Mike.
Well, let's cut to the chase.
Mike, you don't have to play with me. You know what went wrong here.
Do I, Mike? Do I know?
Okay. So we're going to have to do it this way then. Fine. Okay, Mike, you're aware of the latest product you approved.
I'm really excited about it, Dave. It's going to be a hit. I just know it.
Right, so our spicy flamin' hot corn squares, not exactly a catchy name, but that's not the problem.
I'm still waiting to hear what you think the problem could be.
Mike, every bag of spicy flamin' hot corn squares is delivered to stores on fire. Literally on fire, Mike.
You don't get it. This current generation craves something real, something authentic. When we say our chips are flamin' hot, why not put our fire where our mouth is?
Or you could literally do anything other than that.
Have you tried the chips, Dave?
No.
Then how can you say they're not good? Try one.
That chip is literally on fire.
Beautiful, isn't it?
I'm not putting that in my mouth.
Your loss.
You didn't eat it. You just stuffed it back in the back of that with the other flaming chips.
I'm not hungry.
You know what? I dare you to eat one of those chips.
Dave, let's be grown-ups about lighting things on fire.
Mike, if we ship these to stores, we're never going to be able to sell anything to them again.
Well, I hope you're wrong about that.
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh, they shipped last night.
Oh, God! Okay, let me check online. Mike, You sent out trucks filled with flaming hot chips. Look at that.
I mean, they're flaming hot trucks.
You're lucky they're not exploding.
Of course they are. We lined the truck beds with flame-proof material.
But not the sides of the truck.
It's free advertising, and they're really bright.
All right, I'm going to have to shut this down right now.
Dave! Wait, Dave! Damn it. I knew he never liked spicy food. So, one request for you guys. I'm going to post the link up in just a little bit. My friends at Premier Arts in Elkhart, they're an amazing theater company that helps a lot of kids, get into theater, learn about the arts. They're part of a contest right now where they could win free rights to perform Newsies, the musical, and actually they would win the first amateur production rights. They're finalists now with 4 other youth theater companies. And I'm going to post a link there. If you could go and vote for them, that would be amazing. So as soon as this feed ends, I'm going to put that up. Please go find them and vote for them. They can really use the support. So that's it. Thank you to all of you for listening. Our producers are Rob Southgate and Chris Mao.
Great guys.
Yes, thank you to Ann Wilder and Hassan Al-Masri for helping me with research and fact-checking on this month's 10,000 Dawn story. And as always, the show is written and performed by me, James Wilder, live at the Blue Box Cafe. So that's all for tonight from the Blue Light. Come back next month, where we'll be sure to offer you more tales of the fantastic, into the darkest depths of your horror, the brightest flights of your fancy, and the biggest dreams of your future. From all of us here at the Blue Box Cafe in Elgin, Illinois, keep your light shining. There's plenty more to see.